Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Johnston. Mr. Peterson.
Present.
Ms. Temboski.
Present.
Mr. Flynn. Mr. Trainey.
Present.
Mr. Honeman.
Here.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Honored to be here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Steele.
Here.
Mr. Starr.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
On the phone.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Ms. Gray Jackson, would you lead us in the pledge, please, ma'am?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Gray Jackson. There are no minutes of previous meetings. Mayor's report. Mr. Mayor?
No report today, sir.
Chairman's report, just one item to tell you is we're back in room 155. The successful election was done. They've put the room back to order. My thanks to the clerk's office and the election people. The room looks great, so we're going to be moving back in there. And thanks to the mayor's office for letting use his room as long as we needed to. We're back in our room again. Committee reports. Mr. Honeman?
Just a reminder that tomorrow at noon, I think before they do their construction, we're going to be meeting here in the conference room, Public Safety Committee meeting tomorrow, noon. And you're welcome to come. Never mind, I'm meeting in the Assembly Chambers. I'm being told. I stand corrected. Or sit corrected.
You're meeting in here or in room?
In the chambers.
Okay.
In the chambers, apparently. So tomorrow,
Well,
noon.
good you told him, man.
And I'm not sure how we're going to get everybody in. Or can we still come into the main entrance? You know? Okay, I'm being told yes. So you, public is welcome.
Good. Mr.
A lot of
Starr.
seats.
Mr. Starr, sir.
No report.
Mr. Steele, sir.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Evans, sir.
No report.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder, the Budget Finance Committee will be meeting on Thursday at noon in the Assembly Conference Room. And at the last meeting, we talked about the sprinkler exemption, following up on a recommendation from the Budget Advisory Commission. And we're going to have a follow-up on the sprinkler exemption. And this time we're going to have the fire marshal there to answer any questions that anyone may have. See you there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Flynn, sir. Ms. Temboski, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm catching up on some of my old emails, and I did see that the Eberhardt matter has been appealed, which we kind of expected, or we thought might happen. So I think after reading comments from Mr. Wheeler, I will want to query the members of the subcommittee to see if we need to engage Mr. Levesque further or what direction you guys want to go in. But for now, there's no meeting or anything. I'll just talk offline with you, yourself and Mr. Evans.
I want to let you know I did go to the Ethics Committee meeting on your behalf, and I think we've worked out a good arrangement.
Oh, good. And one of the members, or the chair of the Ethics, I think he's the chair now, he did, I did tell him I would submit a formal request for review from the Ethics Committee. So I'll have that in by the end of the week, too.
Thank you. I think it's a good solution to the issue, ma'am.
Good, good. I look forward to seeing it because, I like making my disclosures. I think it's good for the public, but I think if we could have a standing one, I think it's a little overkill, honestly, buying staplers and whatnot, letting the public know. But nonetheless, it's important.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Peterson, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report this evening.
Ms. Johnston, ma'am.
We've tentatively scheduled a Title 21 committee meeting on the 28th at 11:30. I say tentatively because I'm on hold as far as a baby in Norway, but I'm planning on being there on the 28th.
What number grandchild is this, ma'am?
It will be 4. I have 2 Peruvians, and this will be my second Norwegian.
You have your own United Nations going on, don't you? Okay, we're now down. There's nothing else. We're down. Oh, Mr. Hall, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to miss you. Mr. Hall.
No report.
Okay. We're down to consent agenda. Need a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
Moved in second. Is there any objection to approval of the consent agenda? I'm not seeing any. That is adopted by the body. We want to pull that one when we get down there.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Gray Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we only have one item on the consent agenda, may I have the honor of pulling that item? Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman?
ma'am.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Chairman. I'd like to pull item 9, Apple 1.
Okay. Move down to it's Resolution Air 2015-174, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing and celebrating Anchorage Municipal election workers.
Second.
Ask unanimous. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Okay. So no objection, Madam Clerk. That's unanimous if you want to reflect it. And who's reading it? Pete, you reading it?
Yes, sir.
If we get the election workers, I think you know who you are. Amanda's been working hard with you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. And this one's for you.
Thank you.
Hi, Pat. How you doing? This one's for you. Yeah. Good to see you. Oh, this one's for you. You're welcome. Hi, you can see you. And we got more. We got 3 more. Amanda. Oh, that's by these two. Hi, this is for you. And this is for you. You're welcome. And this is for you. And I'll just let you stand up here by yourself.
Okay. Can you slide over? Yes, I can. I'll slide over and make room.
You guys want to come forward and spread, and we want to get a photo of all you guys.
All right.
Pete?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's AR number 2015-174, a resolution of the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizing and celebrating Anchorage municipal election workers. Whereas Anchorage municipal election workers contribute to a flourishing democracy and serve their fellow citizens with distinction, and whereas municipal election workers are charged with assisting every qualified voter to vote, preserving the integrity of the election process, and meeting the challenges to do so with resourcefulness and ingenuity. And whereas municipal election workers are the face of elections for voters, they provide a fundamental link between the voting public and the election process. And their efforts can significantly influence a voter's perception of the voting experience. And whereas about 650 municipal election workers served nearly 70,000 voters during the course of the most recent regular and runoff elections. Whereas municipal election workers' ages span the generations and they mirror the amazing diversity of our community. And whereas the majority of municipal election workers demonstrate outstanding commitment by serving multiple years and multiple decades. And whereas municipal election workers' responsibilities may evolve with new technologies and new procedures, but their core roles as champions of fair, honest, and transparent elections will endure. Whereas it is most appropriate to recognize the contribution that all municipal election workers make each time a vote is cast. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Anchorage Municipal Assembly recognizes and celebrates Anchorage municipal election workers, passed and approved by the Anchorage Assembly this 19th day of May, 2015.
Stay there.
Don't run off.
We may have some questions for you.
Comments and questions for you, so please stay close to the podium.
Mr. Flynn.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we've got a distinguished panel in front of us, and if you don't mind, I'd like to recognize one of them specifically. Ms. Falconer?
What did you say?
We just have a couple, I think several of us have a few comments we'd like to say, and I get the pleasure of honoring you specifically this evening, probably because your kids are my kids' coaches in skiing and basketball.
Who's honoring you specifically this evening as someone who's worked with him and his children.
Is what?
Has worked with him and his children.
Oh,
But
it's just an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be able to work for the elections. They asked me why I did, and it's because it's freedom.
well, I happen to know that you were raised in a family where public service was highly valued, and I understand you started working elections in the 1960s at Rabbit Creek School, and since then you've been active with the League of Women Voters, and that you've also worked at the Bayshore and in the View schools for the elections. And in fact, it does mention in my notes here that you believe the right to a secret vote is a precious freedom and that unexercised freedoms are subject to loss. A sentiment I couldn't share better. Thank you.
It's fun to have seen the hand-counted ballots to 1 or 2 at night at Rabbit Creek down to Inlet View, where I had a beautiful machine that actually learned how to use it. And the change over the years is awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your service, madam.
Ms. Johnston, ma'am.
Well, I have the honor to make a couple of comments about our great citizen from South Anchorage, Pat Abney, who we all know strongly believes in volunteerism and community involvement. And she also began working the elections in 1960 and, of course, took some time off while she was on the Assembly. I think probably because of her, Rabbit Creek has a better than average voter turnout. And we're very grateful to have Pat in South Anchorage. Thank you.
Mr. Starr, sir. Pat, sorry, Pat. Anything else, ma'am? We have a few more questions, Pat.
Well, it's an honor to be honored by you tonight, and it's an honor to serve our community, and it is a part of freedom. And someone gave me a quote from Thomas Jefferson many years ago, and I think it explains me fairly well. And he said, "Science is my passion, politics my duty."
Well, Pat, you're like family. I remember when I first got on the body, you came on with me. It was a few years ago. And you put up with me when I was kind of obnoxious. Thank you, man. I'm not quite as obnoxious anymore. Sometimes. Mr. Starr, sir.
Oh, just Shirley Malden.
Great line.
Yes, it is. Shirley? Cheryl, over here. I'm going to speak about you, too. I think in believing that the election process is close to the heart of every American, this is what you also believe in. You wanted to contribute to your community in a meaningful way. Ms. Malden began working with the elections in the Eagle River area in the late 50s. We could say early 60s because you don't look quite that old, but the early 60s. Working with first-time voters is a special thrill for Cheryl, especially when election workers get to present to the voters a small keepsake American flag. We thank you for your service for our area, in particular Chugiak Eagle River. Thank you.
Ms. Dembowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to recognize Ms. Jenke. You were one of the patriarchs of a long-standing Eagle River family, and it's my understanding that when you were first solicited to run or to work on the elections, it was a way for you to connect with the Eagle River community. That was my understanding, and that's really the spirit of our community. It's those who pitch in to help their neighbors and to learn and to teach. And we just want to thank you for your service. It does Eagle River very proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for this privilege.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank all of you for doing such a wonderful job and for volunteering. And I want to personally thank Pat Abney because she was one of the 42 Assembly members that I worked with when I was staff to the Assembly. And I loved working with all of them, but I really, really loved working with Pat. And Pat, I'm going to say something right now. I hope I don't embarrass you, and I'm not even sure if you remember, but, I always felt that it was my responsibility to give Assembly members my opinion, because I was, I thought I was protecting you in one way or another, all of you. And I can remember Bob Bell was wanting to bring forward an ordinance, and I said, Bob, I'm just giving you my opinion. And he said, well, I didn't ask for your opinion. And I handled it real well because he didn't. And I remember you were bringing forward an ordinance, and I said, Pat, I don't think it's a good idea. And you said, are you trying to roadblock me, Elfie? Do you remember that? And I laugh about it to this day. Thank you, Pat, for your years of service. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Evans, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's
Thank
another
you for
impressive South
the
Anchorage.
recognition from all you kids.
I need a copy of that for my grandchildren. They don't think I am. Mr. Evans, sir?
Yes, so there's another impressive South Anchorage elections worker who couldn't be here tonight, but I wanted to make sure she was recognized. Mary Pat Heller. Mary Pat moved to Alaska in 1959 and started working with the elections shortly after her arrival. She worked most of the elections until 2014. She believes strongly that voting is a privilege and that it's important that every eligible voter exercise that privilege. Elections work offered Mary Pat the ability to encourage her neighbors to vote, and we're very appreciative for her efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Yes, just an expression of appreciation to each and every one of them. If anybody can appreciate what they do, it's certainly me. So just thank you for your service.
Mr. Steele?
Yes, thank you. Barbara, don't run off now.
We're almost got through everybody.
Barbara Bowerman was recruited, I guess, from a friend in West Anchorage to get involved in elections, and at about the same time got involved with the League of Women Voters, and we all know what great work that they do, especially at West High with their voter with the kids. But she was motivated to pursue those activities by a desire to learn about and be active in the neighborhood and the community, and we certainly appreciate it over there in West Anchorage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Mr. Flynn. His mother was one of my children's teachers at Romick.
Hope it didn't do much damage.
Barbara?
I've got cleanup duty, and I would like to thank everyone. I see some of you sitting way in the back that I've met before and that we've worked really hard on things together. And every one of you makes a difference in every single election. We just can't do this without you. I think you, more than anyone else, except Ernie, knows that there are like 100,000 moving parts. So thank you so much. And one of the things that the clerk's office wanted to do, we have a couple of other items on the agenda, but after we get to those items, we have some cake and some other goodies out in the lobby, and we want all the election workers to come. And the cake says thank you. So we want you to join us for some refreshments to thank you.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes. Could we have some of the shy election workers at least please stand up or raise your hand, the ones that didn't come forward? And I hope we get a picture of everybody around the cake later for the...
Mr. Honeman?
Just, I know Ms. Jones said wrap up, but I just wanted to give a shout out to East Anchorage workers as well. And I know a longtime worker who stopped working about a year or two ago, Barbara Gazaway. But just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you to keep our process working well. So, and it went very well this year. Thank you.
You guys did a great job. You're what makes this system work. You know, I stopped by room 240 today for a few minutes at the invitation of Amanda. And I think there were 6 women gathered around this table. I noticed there were no men there for a specific reason. Attention to detail, we don't do really well with that. But it was interesting to see how they deal with those ballots. And I appreciate all your time you put into this. And Amanda, thank you again, ma'am. You're the hero of this. I mean, I know the work you put into this, the classes you teach in this, and you did a great job. Hats off to you, Amanda. Thanks for being our election head. Well, we'll move on the agenda then. Go through all these. We're now down to special orders. Sir?
Move approval of item 15A, that's Assembly Memorandum 284-2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And
Discussion from Assembly members.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to note for the record, this is a recertification of the regular election, and I appreciate the clerk's office being very diligent. We did have some ballots that ended up in the wrong vault, and so this count includes 70 ballots not previously tallied. It did not change the results of any of the elections, but it's appropriate to bring it forward for recertification this time, and I appreciate the attention to detail.
Absolutely, sir. Any other comments from Assembly members? Please vote. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
The item is approved. Next one, the motion item 15B.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of Assembly Memorandum 332-2015, certification of the May 5 runoff election.
Second.
Moved to second. Discussion from Assembly members. Seeing none, Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Please vote. That item is approved. We're down to unfinished agenda. There is none. Audience participation. Anybody wish to address the Assembly on any item in front of us? Or not in front of us? You have 3 minutes. State your name clearly for the record, spell your last name, and tell us what part of Anchorage you live in.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman, Haberman. As you're aware, I follow public process. I cover a wide area in the state, and I've stressed to you before from time to time, and earlier on the previous meeting you had dealing with approval of the election, I stated that if the public process is done appropriately, then the decision made by the governing body is more likely in the public interest. Again, if the public process is done appropriately, then the decision made by the governing body is more likely in the public interest. Last time I spoke to you, I was concerned, and you did it again. You certified an election. You violated state law, which says that all public meetings, you provide a reasonable opportunity for the public to be heard. But you didn't hear from the public. You put the public's comments at the end, and you voted before that. I warned you on that situation, and you did it again. Now, I also further note is you've all been sent an email earlier today. Title of the email is Subject to Interference and Inappropriate Conduct by Anchorage Officials, the Municipality of Anchorage, with independent ongoing investigation when not providing copies of the policies and procedures for the Anchorage Election Commission. As you know, I've been doing this for some time, started April 4th, 2012, the day after the election. And a key to an investigation is to know what those policies and procedures are. As I noted in my communication to you earlier today, 2:30 meeting I went to, by the way, again, they dealt with policies and procedures, but the public was blinded and not provided a copy. I don't know how long this is going to take for this to be corrected. I guess the answers are to you all here. But a key part to why this has not been corrected, and I'll state this in a summation, is since the start of my investigation, the key party that has been covering up on this whole thing has been the press. There's been, I told him, it was black on my work. One day, this will come out, and the public will say why, and they'll be very angry, and this will get corrected. And I also want to stress this, is I have extended widely, including looking into the APOC office, Alaska Public Offices Commission, and I'm receiving more support out there. More and more people are aware of it because many of the meetings I attend to, there are more and more people that are hearing what I'm saying, and more and more people are in agreement with what I'm saying. And I guess that concludes my statement here, except to note that I was the lone observer for the meeting for the Anchorage Election Commission. As far as, and just close it to the meeting that happened today, 2 meetings and the meetings, so I am the only one that witnessed it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to address us? Seeing no one, we're down to assembly comments. Any comments from the assembly? If not, we're down to adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? We're adjourned.